Here we are again, doing these videos, and I think, as I've said before, the reason I'm doing them is that I've been reading literature over the last couple of years now, and I've been journaling and writing down my thoughts and the philosophies that are the new ways of thinking, but also the videos here now are just crystallizing this to for a point of reference, and if they are of any help to anyone else, then that's just an added bonus. I wanted to talk really about on this particular video about a book that has been hugely influential influential in my life so far, anyway. And it was a book that appeared in the 1970s, and I suppose the Zen phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, then I just wasn't ready for it at that particular time. And you may not be ready for it now, and that's entirely fair and right. But as it appeared through a series of synchronistic events into my life, and it's made a huge, huge impact on me in terms of the way I think. So, and the way that I now am running my life. I thought basically that I had it down up until my 40s, and I thought I understood the world. But actually, what was happening was there was errors in my thinking, and that's where erroneous zones, which is the book I'm talking about, comes in, because he talks in Wayne Dyer particularly talks about these zones that we have, and there are several of them in the book. And I really, it's one of the books that I absolutely urge people to study. And when I say study, what I mean by that is I used to think, oh yeah, I've read that book and I'm now I now understand it. And there was so much content in it that I think I've revisited it maybe three, four, I don't know, five times now. And every time I go back, then the penny drops for me on a particular subject. I listen to it audibly. I've got an app on my phone, as I said. Then I write it, and then I do the video. So one of the subjects that I wanted to talk to us on this particular video, probably the bigger problems that we kind of face in these zones. It's one of the bigger subjects he talks about, but I'm going to talk about it this morning. There's two. The first one is guilt. Now, guilt, as described in the book, is something that I suppose people carry around with them. They feel guilty about relationships they've had. They feel guilty about things that they've said, things that they've done, choices for jobs that they've made, choices in general. And I think that guilt can be quite debilitating. And the way it's described is when you say, well, what is guilt? Now, guilt, as described in the book, is the immobilization of you now based on things that have happened in the past. And so, you can't be guilty about something you're going to do. So it's going to be even, at breakfast, you might have said something that was a little offhand, or even yesterday, you might have been a little bit grumpy with someone, or the choice that you made around a particular job or whatever. So, it's all about the past, guilt. And I think when you look at the past in the way I've described in some of the previous videos, you can't change a single thing about that. You can't say something differently. You can't make a different choice about that past experience. So, it's over. And no amount of you carrying around this guilt is going to change what actually happened. Okay. And some of those things can be terrible parts of your life. But what I will say to you is, and what I've learned from these books, is that it had to have happened. And the evidence for that is because it did. Okay, it just did, and it happened, and there it is. And then I suppose we have to then say, well, I can learn from that. Okay, but we don't have to carry this immobilizing guilt around with us. I think it starts really early, to be honest. And I know as a parent, I've done it myself, and I've used guilt on my children. And I think we use guilt even at work, with our girlfriends and boyfriends and husbands and wives. You've heard it before. You stay there. I'll get up and I'll make the cup of tea. You've had a hard day. You sit there. Don't worry, or you'll do it with your kids. I'll make your bed. You just sit and watch the telly. Don't worry about me with my bad back, and I've been at work, and so on and so on. And so we use guilt. And although it might be a bit of in a comedic way, I think what we do is we layer that onto people, and they then carry this guilt around with them. And it's just a ridiculous thing that sort of immobilizes you now. So as I said, I think what we've got to do really is learn from those experiences. And I think that's and I think what will happen is eventually, if you keep making these choices that are causing you problems, then they say that life gives you exams, and you get to take it again and again and again and again until you actually get, the lesson in that particular choice, and then move on with your life. And I think that's really important. I think guilt is something that, when I've thought about it's something that I just don't accept anymore. And it's how you respond to that guilt that will free you from it. A little word on that, really. The second part of this particular zone, if you like, is worry. Now, worry, funnily enough, is the polar opposite of guilt. Because whereas guilt was supposed to be, or is to do with your past, then worry is actually to do with the future. And people worry about absolutely everything. They worry about their job. They worry about how much they weigh. They worry about their finances. They worry about their children. They worry about what they've said to someone. They worry about having nothing to worry about. It's just, it's this thing where we just carry around this anxiety. And when you start to look at worry, you realize, just like guilt, it's something that you can get rid of. It's this idea, basically, that you have. And one of the way it's described in the book is wonderful because, and I will pass it on. I will share it because I think it's useful. And it's not conceited, and it's not, it's basically the best advice that you can ever get around worry. And I wrote it down, and I've journaled about it, and I've put it up on the wall behind me over here. And it's basically something that if you really understand it, if you get it, then it makes a huge difference. So the best advice around worry. Okay, so this is how it goes, and I'm hopefully remember it. It makes no sense to worry about the things that you don't have control over, because if you don't have control over them, it makes no sense to worry. Okay, so that's the first bit. The second part is, it makes no sense to worry about the things you do have control over, because if you do have control over them, it makes no sense to worry. So basically, that's everything you could have worried about. Okay. Now, for me, that was it. That was an absolute aha moment. I wasn't really a particular worrier, but I think it's something that we all do. But if you've got control over it, then why are you immobilized by it? If you haven't got control over it, again, why are you immobilized by it? I think basically, that's everything you could ever worry about. So we've got guilt there, and we've got worry. In terms of, I suppose, the anxieties or the troubles in our lives and things like that, there's a wonderful quote, and it says, I'm an old man, and I've had many troubles in my life, most of which never materialized. And I think that's probably what we do. We're quite hard on ourselves, and we think that we have to worry and we have to feel guilty. And I think basically, we can't plan the future too much because, as I've said before, the future is promised to nobody. So you just have to live in the now. Okay. And I think basically when you start doing that, then you gain control of your life, and you gain control of the things that are more important to you. And I think this book, Your Erroneous Zones, really speaks to that. And in subsequent videos, I'm going to be talking about some of the other zones that we have. And hopefully I'll I'll crystallize these ideas for me and hopefully for you. So don't feel guilty and don't worry. Be happy. Have a great day.